everyone! So for today's video, I am going to be doing my winter book haul. I decided that for this year on my channel, I'm going to try and only do 4 book hauls, one for each season. So this is going to be my winter book haul. I'd say these books have been collecting since about like the very end of December. So yeah, let's just get started. The first book I have is like my 10th edition of Grimm's Fairy Tales, but I saw this at Barnes & Noble. It was only $10 and I absolutely love the cover, and what really sold me on it were the illustrations throughout. Some of them are colored, others are in black and white. Either way, I love these stories and I wanted this edition, so I bought it. So at Barnes & Noble, I picked up And I Darken by Kirsten White. This is the first book in a series all about Vlad the Impaler, but in this series, he is a woman. I had heard super amazing things about this series, and so I decided to just pick up this first book on a whim, and I read it, and all I'm going to say is I really enjoyed it, and I will save the rest of my thoughts for my wrap-up. So all of the rest of the books in this haul were all purchased from my library book sale, and I think since the last time I filmed a book haul, I've been there twice, so quite a few books have accumulated, and I just have them in a giant bag over here, so I'm going to just be pulling them out randomly. They're not going to be in any like specific order or genre. So the first one I pulled out was Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. This is an adult thriller. Basically, we follow this couple who seem like the perfect couple, and like they're really rich. They live in this big house. He's a lawyer. She like cooks and gardens, and they just seem like the perfect couple, but everything is not as it seems. This is another book that I actually already read since purchasing it, so I will talk more about my thoughts on it in my wrap-up, but what I will say is I really enjoyed this book and would 100% recommend it if you like thrillers. Next we have Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crawley. This is a contemporary romance book. I think it's set in Australia, and it is set in a bookstore, which makes it even better. I also already read this book and actually vlogged my experience reading it, so if you'd like to see that, I'll leave a link to it at the end of the video, but again, I'll talk more about it in my wrap-up. Next we have The Passenger by Lisa Lutz. All I know about this book is it is a thriller, and that's pretty much it. I like to go into my thrillers kind of blind, so I have refrained from reading the back of this book at all. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you like this book or not. Then I picked up With Malice by Eileen Cook. I believe this is based off of a true story about a girl who goes to Italy, I want to say. Yes. And she goes to Italy and then she wakes up in the hospital having no recollection of what happened to her. She was supposedly involved in an accident, but they don't think that the accident was actually an accident. So I'm really interested in reading this book, especially since it was based off of a true story. And I've heard a couple people talk about it on BookTube, but not a whole lot, so I'm interested to see what this book's about. I then picked up 4 very big books that you may have heard of before, and that is 4 of the Throne of Glass, nope, wrong, Game of Thrones, I'm confused. I have not watched the TV show, and I haven't obviously read the books, so I'm not really sure what order that they go in, except I'm assuming this is the first book, which is a Game of Thrones. Then there's Clash of Kings, I don't know which one that is, Dance with Dragons, and A Feast for Crows. So yeah, I don't know what order they go in, I just know that this would probably take me like many months to read. But I'm interested to see like what the series is all about. Like I said, I have never watched the show or anything, so I really don't know what the hype's all about, but I'm excited to find out. I then picked up a couple of classics. So we have The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I already own an edition of this book, but I liked this edition a little bit better, so I thought I'd pick it up. This next book I think I paid about $2 for, and that is The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. I believe this is the Barnes & Noble like leather-bound classics. So yeah, I paid $2 for this. Like, what? I also picked up The Annotated Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So this is the revised and expanded edition. So it has like all kinds of illustrations in it, and obviously it's like annotated and stuff, so I thought that was pretty cool. I also picked up The Valley of Fear by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I don't know if this is one Sherlock story or if this is like many, but I love Sherlock Holmes, so I saw it and I bought it. Next up we have The Last Star by Rick Yancey. This is the 3rd book in the Fifth Wave trilogy. I own the Fifth Wave and I had actually started reading it like many years ago, and what I'd read of it, which was like a chapter and a half, I really enjoyed, but then I got like distracted by other books, so I never actually ended up finishing it. But I am excited to actually pick up that trilogy at some point, so I figured I may as well just pick up the third book while it's like $1, and then I can save myself much money buying it later. I also scored a signed edition of After You by Jojo Moyes. This is the second book in the Me Before You trilogy. So I own and have read Me Before You, and I absolutely adored that book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I tried reading this book and I ended up DNFing it because I just didn't really like the direction that the story was going in. But then the third book came out and everyone like really enjoyed that book, so I figured I'll just pick this up because one, it's signed, and like I said, I loved the first book, so I'm just pleased to have this author's signature. But also because the third book was so good, I'm going to try and reread Me Before You, try and get through this book, and then read the third one to see like how it concludes, because I do want to see where her story goes. Next, I got Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore by Matthew Sullivan. I believe this is a thriller that is set in a bookstore. I think it's about like someone has committed suicide in this bookstore and something thrilling happens. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I like to go into them blind, but I'm just going to assume it takes place in a bookstore, and that's like good enough for me. I then picked up The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I actually own this book in paperback, but I do prefer my books in hardcover, so it was $1, so I bought it. I have not got around to reading this book yet, even though I have owned the paperback for probably over a year at this point, but hopefully this year will be the year that I finally get to this book. I then picked up 2 Sarah Dessen books. I've never read any of her books before, but I saw quite a few of them at the library book sale this time, so I picked up the 2 that seemed the most interesting. The first one is Once and For All. Yeah, I don't know what this book is about because, like I said, I don't really read the synopsis of my books very often, but I like the cover, so I did read the synopsis at the time of picking them out, but I just can never be bothered to read them again after that. And then I also picked up Along for the Ride, which I hate the cover of, but I guess the synopsis interested me enough at the time to buy this book. Next book I'm very nervous about because the title, the cover, even the synopsis has absolutely no interest to me, but people rave about this book, so I figured I'd buy it and see what all the hype was about again. So that is A Man Called Ova. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's by Frederick Bachman, who is like many people's favorite author, but he just writes like a lot of novels that sound like they would bore me to sleep, so we'll see how this one goes. Then I picked up Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. This is another adult thriller novel. It's written by the same author who wrote The Girl on the Train, which is a book that I have owned for probably 2 years and still haven't read yet, but I've really been getting into thrillers lately. I think I've read like 3 or 4 this year already, so hopefully I'll be able to get to all of them this year. And again, don't know what it's about, but lots of people have read it, and that's just what I do. Another classic that I picked up that I forgot to mention earlier was Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I've never read this book before, but I've heard other people talk about it. I couldn't remember at the time if I owned another edition of this book at home or not. I still actually don't know if I do because I haven't really looked, but I own quite a lot of classics in this like Barnes & Noble edition, so I thought I'd buy it so that I can have like a very big collection of these because I think they actually look quite nice together. The final book in this book haul, and that I picked up from my library book sale, is The White Queen by Philippa Gregory. This is I think this is a part of a like series, but I don't think you really have to read them in order. But it's a historical fiction, obviously. I own The Red Queen by Philippa Gregory, and so I think that these are like 2 that are supposed to kind of be read together, so I figured I'd buy this one as well while it was there. I also hate the covers of all of her books as well. Like, they have so much potential, but they're so not nice. But yeah, I am excited to read this. I think this book touches on like that mystery about the like 2 princes or whoever they were that went missing, and then they were like found dead and like under the stairs or like in a wall or something. Clearly I don't really know the story very well, but I think this like touches on it, or it's like included in this book, so I'm actually very excited to read this. So yeah, those are all of the books in this book haul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!
You hear that, Samson?